How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. We are at the end of the year. It's time to play some games, and I've been playing a ton of Gran Turismo 7. I'll talk about it a little bit later in the video because I have 3 other topics to cover. First of all, there's a PS5 laptop that costs over $2,700, and it's cool. You got to check it out, but I don't know if it's worth it. Second on the list, you're never going to believe this, but the PS5 disc drive is sold out. Here's how to get one before Christmas if you need to for somebody like your friend or your dog. I don't know. Third, the Black Myth Wukong developers are not taking the Astrobot Game of the Year win in stride. They're really pissed. And fourth, there's Gran Turismo 7 login rewards between now and the end of the year, so I just wanted to give a quick PSA about that. All right, let's jump into this first topic here. So we've seen a lot of people this generation kind of doing these deconstructions and reconstructions of the PlayStation 5. I've seen people deconstruct it down to its motherboard, add on liquid cooling, and basically put it in a PC chassis. It doesn't really improve performance at all. It just looks cool because, you know, these things are spec'd at a very specific limit. And if you add different parts and everything like that, you can't really customize the operating system of the PlayStation 5 to take advantage of those new parts like you could say a PC. Like everything is limited by the operating system itself. So it's cool, right? Like it makes a really cool YouTube short, TikTok, or Instagram reel, but it's not going to give you any real world benefit until now, because these Chinese modders, they've deconstructed the PS5 and reconstructed it into a laptop chassis with a 17-inch screen and a keyboard and mouse and everything like that. It adds on one extra HDMI 2.1 port so you can actually connect it to an external monitor. But there's a lot of caveats that come along with this because, you know, the PS5 sucks a lot of power, right? So it's not a battery powered laptop because it's already thick at the chassis size that they're using. But if you wanted a battery that could last more than like 30 or 40 minutes at the most, you'd have to make this thing basically as thick as a desktop PC, or, you know, a little bit thicker than a regular PS5 or PS5 Slim, because you need a really big battery. These things are built to draw as much power as possible to keep up with the performance that's required. It was never built with a laptop chassis in mind. So when you get this laptop chassis PS5, you actually have to keep it plugged in at all times because there's no battery. This video is sponsored by UFL, free-to-play football. Endless progress is what attracts all football enthusiasts. Everyone wants to reach the top, and you can do it in UFL. Speaking of great brands, Adidas is the official UFL global season partner. With the Adidas Team Pass, get exclusive gear, iconic franchises, and a custom stadium. Complete quests for unique rewards and enjoy real-world perks like a 15% discount on select Adidas items. No matter what your passion for football is, UFL brings it all together in one awesome package. It's free to play, and they're focused on high-quality gameplay for everyone. And just because it's free to play doesn't mean it's unfair to play. This game is fair to play. The only way to get good at UFL is to play it and improve your skills. There's a super deep metagame involved here too, featuring tons of club items, licensed players, and stadiums from around the world. UFL is taking on the established leaders in football for the first time in decades to provide a fun and exciting experience for everyone. The online is also global. You can play against teams from around the world to become the UFL champion. The best part is it's all continuous. There's no progress wipes at the beginning of a year. And it's endorsed by players you know. Cristiano Ronaldo is the ambassador of the game, and they've got tons of other well-known players on board as well. And finally, it's got next-gen graphics because it's built in Unreal Engine 5. With UFL, you can rule the football universe without limits. Play UFL now, play for football. Huge shout out to UFL for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the description to download the game for free now. The screen itself they went with is cool. It's 17 inches like I mentioned, but it's also 60 hertz, so that's why that second HDMI port is actually necessary, because if you want to take advantage of an HDR display, one with 120 hertz, it's not going to work with this built-in laptop display. But it still is really freaking cool to see the PS5 deconstructed and reconstructed into all these different and unique ways, because it kind of like could give Sony ideas going into the future, maybe for their handheld or eventual SKUs of the PS5. I've seen a lot of talk this weekend about how Microsoft is basically done with the console race. every game going forward is going to eventually come to PS5 at the very least. Some of them are going to launch on PS5 at the same time as Xbox. So for all like intents and purposes, they are exiting the console marketplace, right? Like they'll make consoles, but they're going to be boutique devices that might get extra benefits with Game Pass or just be like a no frills Xbox experience. It's not going to be their driving factor going forward to be a hardware manufacturer, right? Like they're essentially a glorified third-party developer that makes hardware, which leaves just Sony and Nintendo as the last two console makers. And I don't know, like a lot of people on the Xbox side of the fence, they just believe in what Xbox is doing. So they're making a lot of far-reaching, future projections that are like, there's going to be no hardware in the future. It's just going to be these platforms with third-party games only, and everyone is going to PC. But I don't really believe that, right? Like PC is exploding in growth, but it's going from the bottom, right? Like it's going from so far behind console that like, yeah, it looks like it's crazy on paper, but when you look at the raw numbers of people switching from console to PC or getting into PC as their first gaming experience, it's still nowhere close to the amount of people who play on console, right? Like it's not really comparable. I'm glad PC is growing because I love Steam Deck. I have a channel called Deck Ready and I love my gaming PC for different types of experiences, but for third-person open world action adventure games, you're never going to beat the console experience, the convenience factor that comes along with it. And a lot of these people who say getting into PC gaming is cheaper or as cheap as console gaming, they're just selling you hopium and copium to the maximum degree. Like, yeah, you can build a PC with a graphics card and like a good CPU and RAM and everything like that for around the cost of a PS5 Pro, but what they leave out is you also need to buy a keyboard, you got to buy a mouse, you got to buy a monitor. Then when you get that monitor, if you get a 4K monitor, good luck running anything on that monitor at native resolution. You're going to be using the same upscalers as the PS5. And on top of that, Windows is not tailor-made to run games. Like the PS5 operating system is built exclusively to run games at the end of the day. It might have these extra add-ons like Netflix and everything like that, or game recording, but the like whole intent behind that operating system is to be a no-frills gaming experience. Whereas on PC, if you use the same parts as the Xbox Series X or the PS5, you're across the board getting worse performance and stuttering and just a pain in the butt experience because Windows is not built to be a gaming platform. It is a gaming platform, but it's not its first and foremost primary objective. So to see consoles kind of like working their way into the PC ecosystem through this designed laptop, I think it's pretty cool. I thought it was worth highlighting on the channel, but at $2,700, I don't know. I don't think I need this upgrade or this side grade in my life. Like I don't need it that bad. There's better things I could spend that much money on. And I'll talk about something I picked up, not anywhere close to $2,700 worth, but something cool I picked up later in the video. All right, that brings me to the second news story of the video, which is that the PS5 disk drive, you're never going to believe this, it is out of stock pretty much everywhere, whether you're talking PS Direct, Best Buy, Amazon, all the listed places you can pick these things up. I mean, you could chalk this up to Sony not making enough of them. I've already seen a lot of people on the Xbox side of the fence saying that they're trying to push people into digital gaming, but when there's demand for a product, scalpers show up, they buy up all the stock, and then they sit on it, throw it on eBay for way more than it's worth. And I'd argue and guess that that's exactly what's happening here. Like scalpers bought up a lot of these disk drives knowing that people who bought PS5 Pros or spent $370 on a PS5 Slim on Black Friday were going to go, oh, I can't play all my disc-based PS4 games on this thing and then want a disk drive, right? I don't think anything nefarious is going on here in terms of Sony's end. I think they're safe. I'm going to defend Sony on this one, but there is a way. If you need to get one before Christmas, like you're buying someone a PS5 or you know you're getting a digital PS5 and you're like me back in the day where, you know, you wanted an iPod. I really wanted an iPod regular, but I was like, oh, you know, I can kind of like, you know, trick my parents into buying me one by saying, well, I'll live with the cheaper option and then cross my fingers that that's what I'll get. So like a lot of people do that, I bet. Like they say, oh, mom, I really want a PS5 for Christmas, or dad or girlfriend or wife or husband, I really want a PS5 for Christmas, but you know, I don't need the most expensive one. I'll live with the disk driveless one. I mean, I did that with the 360 back in the day. My first Xbox 360 was a core model, and then I had to save up money to buy an HDD. And I'm not knocking the technique there, it works. But if you need to get a disk drive, GameStop is your best option right now, because through their Pro membership, you can actually buy these disk drives. It's locked off to Pro members of GameStop. And at first I was like, I don't know if it's worth it, but this membership only costs $25 a year. And when you sign up, you get $5 as a reward. So for an extra $20, you're going to get this disk drive. It is still available at the time of recording this video, and I'm sure it'll stay available because I don't know how many the GameStop Pro members there are out there. But like, you pay 20 bucks more, you get free shipping, which, you know, if you add up the cost of shipping and everything like that, you're probably only spending $10 to $15 over retail to get that disk drive. So I think it's worth investing in, honestly, this Pro membership. Just keep track of the fact that you have it, because every month you get a $5 coupon. So if you're going to get used games or you're pre-ordering games, that's $5 off the pre-order or $5 off the used game you want to get. There are a couple of other benefits, like, again, free shipping and everything like that. But if you really need a disk drive, that's the situation where I think this is worth it. If you don't need the disk drive, I think it's worth waiting until the new year when they're more in stock and you can just get them from PlayStation Direct for retail price with free shipping. I mean, I think the scalpers are going to come down on this quick because, you know, no one's really like lining up at stores to buy the PS5 Pro or the PS5 Slim diskless edition, right? Like, that's just the one that people are going with if they want to save some money now and make it up later getting the disk drive. Or, you know, the PS5 Pro, if you're buying it, you know it doesn't come with the disk drive, so you probably already bought one, right? Like, there's very few people that this is worth it for. But just as a PSA, I wanted to get the news out there because it would really suck to know you have a bunch of disc-based PS4 games and not be able to play any of them on Christmas when you open up your PS5 Pro or disk drive-less PS5 Slim. Anyway, that brings me to the third news story of today's video, which is Black Myth Wukong. It's back in the news again. So if you didn't watch the Game Awards last week, I mean, there were some cool announcements. I ran through it in my weekend video. If you want to check out my thoughts on it, of course, the new Naughty Dog game is going to be awesome. But one of the standout snubs or wins, depending on how you feel, is that Astro Bot won Game of the Year. I think that was a great choice. I loved Astro Bot. It's not my favorite game I played this year, but there was some weird hate campaign with journalists against my Game of the Year, which is Space Marine 2. It didn't win anything as far as I can tell, and like, you know, that sucks. But like, knowing that my pick for Game of the Year never really had a shot in the first place, I was like, Astro Bot, that's a pretty fair runner-up based on the available options. And I absolutely loved that game from top to bottom. I think it's cool that they're adding in more stuff after it's come out completely for free. And apparently it's not selling as well as Sony expected it to, but it still managed to sell over 1 million copies. So if you haven't picked it up, I think it's definitely worth it. And I'd imagine that the reason it's selling a little less is because it's a PS5 only game, right? Like, we know there's a lot of people out there who still haven't upgraded from the PS4 to PS5, and platformers don't traditionally sell as incredibly well unless they have the word Mario on the cover. Yeah, I think it deserved Game of the Year, but the Black Myth Wukong developers, they feel differently. Apparently the guy, the CEO of the studio that made Black Myth Wukong, he had a Game of the Year speech written for 2 years. He saw the fan support for his game because it kind of became a culture war thing on Twitter, and he wrote a post up on Weibo that was like poking fun at the whole situation. And I saw a lot of people taking it very seriously, but it's obvious even from the translation to English that he's just joking around, right? Like, I get being disappointed that you didn't win Game of the Year when your game was like this big monumental achievement, right? Like, so many people bought Black Myth Wukong. I think it's on par with Call of Duty in terms of overall sales. It was on PS5 and PC at launch. A lot of people love it. I still see clips on TikTok and Twitter all the time from this game. So like, knowing that, knowing how big the fan support was for your game, knowing that it was a little bit of a gamer cultural revolution in terms of like, you know, being a new game that's not Elden Ring, that's combat focused, that sells extremely well. I understand being a little bit disappointed that you didn't win Game of the Year, but like, I like Astro Bot. I think Astro Bot is great. I think it's kind of what Sony used to do in terms of games they made in the PS3 and PS4 generation. We know they're pushing towards a lot of live service stuff right now with the Horizon Online multiplayer game. We know that they're kind of reworking franchises that were great in the past, like Uncharted, in weird ways that I don't really love. We like Intergalactic, there's a whole culture war situation because of the main character. I think it looks cool, and the coolest thing I saw in the trailer was that the robot that I forgot her name. Jordan, I think is the main character's name. The robot that she fights in the trailer towards the very end is actually a robot pulled from Jack 4 concept art. So they're kind of going back to the fun with these games like Astrobot and Intergalactic. Like, things are being taken less seriously than they were with stuff like The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Part 1. I like that things are kind of reverting that way. So I'm glad that, you know, games that are more fun based instead of being like IP check boxes to make the most money are the ones winning Game of the Year, right? Like, I think that's cool. Anyway, that brings me to my Gran Turismo segment here on the channel that probably 5 of you are still here watching, but it's the game that I'm sinking the most hours into right now, and I wanted to talk about it. If you didn't catch my review of my first Gran Turismo, I bought a Moza R5 racing wheel under the impression that I could not use it with my PlayStation 5, so I was going to keep my Logitech G923 around just for Gran Turismo 7, but I found this thing. It's called the Resolution. It was $80 on Amazon. I picked it up, and what it does is it allows you to like use the Moza wheel with Gran Turismo. I tried it out over the weekend and it worked great. I didn't really have to mess with any of the settings to get that direct drive force feedback. Everything was tuned nicely. I will say that game is a lot easier with the wheel. I don't know if it's because, you know, I know how to drive a car. I drive fast a lot of the time, a lot faster than I should. I don't know if that's the case or if I'm just bad on a controller, but I was cleaning up with the racing wheel over the weekend, and you know, it takes me a couple of tries with some races to get gold when you're doing championships and everything like that with the controller. I want to get through the rest of the menus with the controller before I switch to a whole new platform of controls, but the reason I'm bringing Gran Turismo 7 up, outside of the fact that I wanted to tell you about this adapter that I got that I think is great, is the fact that right now it's got Christmas mode on. So when you get into the main menu, you're presented with the Gran Turismo world map, which is always nice, but there's Christmas jazz playing, which I think is great, and it's just a nice little calming, you know, vibe that it has set for itself, which is nice. You know, I'm getting towards the end of the year. I'm playing more video games than I usually do. I'm giving myself a little bit of leeway in terms of working hard, so it's nice to see some Christmas stuff. But there's also a reward campaign running right now where for now December 15th until like January 4th, I want to say, every day you log in, you get a little gift from the game, which basically results in millions of credits. And this game's economy is insane. Like, you got to grind to build up credits. So even if you're not like fully addicted to Gran Turismo 7 right now, like I currently am, I think it's worth just booting the game up every day until you get all 10 of these rewards. There's 5 days in the first week, 5 days in the second week. It goes all the way until January. So you have more than enough days to collect all these rewards. So why not do it? I mean, you can get engine parts, you can get high level stuff and roulette tickets that actually pay out good money and good rewards just for logging into the game. And with the PS5, getting from a game to the main menu takes seconds these days. So just do it. I think it's worth it. If you're ever going to go back and play Gran Turismo 7, download My First Gran Turismo, run through all the levels, get the 18 free cars, sell the doubles you have, do these login rewards, and you'll be freaking rich in the game in a matter of days. It's awesome. Oh, and because we're at the end of the video, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, which I'm sure you are because this is the end of the video, let me know what evergreen type content you'd like to see between Christmas and New Year's. I'm going to try and pre-film some stuff so I can give myself at least a couple days off. If you didn't know, I'm running 3 channels right now. I'm doing PSReady, I'm doing Deck Ready, and then I started a new movie channel called Real Ones, and that one takes up a ton of time. So I need a couple days off. I'm getting a little, not burnt out because I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm just getting a little exhausted from working 12 to 13 hour days lately, 7 days a week. So I'm going to take a couple days off. Let me know what evergreen content you'd like to see in the comments below. If there's anything that stands out, I might make your video and I'll give you a shout out.